Hi, everybody. I'm Aaron Mesh with Willamette Week, and today I am with Daniel Cortez, who is the legislative director for the Portland local of the American Postal Workers Union. Uh, Daniel, good to have you with us today.
Aaron, thanks for having me.
So, you work for the Postal Service, right?
That's correct. I have been since 2006.
What are you seeing on the ground now?
We're getting a lot of different reports from our members. The biggest concern right now is what appears to be a deliberate slowdown of the mail. The other thing that's happening is we've seen the dismantling of some letter sorting machines, and now we just have dismantled machines sitting on the workroom floor in the facility.
Ted Fritzky reported on those machines last week, and there's been a lot of public outcry since then. What happened to those machines?
Right now, they're just sitting there. My understanding is that the Postmaster General has said that whatever process the facility was in removing, dismantling those machines was to just sort of be put on hold. And so in the case of Portland, the machines are just sitting there on the workroom floor, roped off, so they don't prevent a safety hazard for anyone, but they are not in any capacity to process or sort letters.
What do these machines do?
They sort letters, basically, is the easiest way to describe it. The letters have barcodes on them, and they are then sorted to be able to go to the right station and to the right carrier, so the carriers can more efficiently deliver the mail.
And what other rules are currently in place that you think is slowing down mail service?
It's hard to say what's currently in place because the directives seem to change rapidly. But what the reports that we've been getting from our members are that mail is sitting in stations, that if it's time for the carriers to go to the street and all the mail isn't necessarily sorted for them, that the mail is sitting there and maybe being delivered the following day. Now, I haven't had confirmation that that is continuing to happen after the Postmaster General's testimony before Congress, but we are trying to get some more specifics from the field.
There's been an extraordinary outcry from Oregon's elected officials, including both senators and a congressman, regarding the postmaster's efforts to apparently slow the mail and potentially to affect the election. Have you seen changes because of that outcry?
It's hard to say what prompted the change, but the outcry is certainly welcome. Senators Wyden and Merkley are definitely leading the charge. Congressman Bonamici, Congressman DeFazio, and Congressman Blumenauer have long been champions of the Postal Service and of providing that service to the American people. And the entirety of the Oregon delegation, with the exception of Congressman Walden, signed a letter to the Postmaster General demanding answers and demanding that standards be maintained.
Everybody's talking about that Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, and he's a Trump appointee. There's a lot of smoke, if maybe not fire, around the idea that the president's trying to affect the election. But you've pointed out, and actually, as have some conservatives pointed out, that this isn't something that DeJoy just created out of thin air.
Correct. As I said, the fight to privatize the post office has been ongoing. It's been the Pony Express was an early example of taking the mail delivery away from postal employees and privatizing it. But for the first time, we actually have an administration that has called upon called for the privatization of the Postal Service. In two separate reports that came from the administration in 2018, they actively called to privatize the post office. We've never really seen that before from an administration. So putting someone in charge that is not from the inside of the Postal Service, that's coming to look at it as a business and not looking at it as a service to the American people, just makes sense out of that playbook if you sort of follow the blueprint that was laid out in those two reports.
So obviously, and there's nothing wrong with this, you have a self-interest in keeping the post office going. Tell me what the public interest should be in that.
Well, the public interest is that the Postal Service is the second oldest federal entity in the country. The Army was founded first, and a month later, our forefathers established the post. They did it to ferment rebellion and bind the nation together at a critical time. The post office exists in the Constitution. So the public interest is that we provide a service to the American people, and for-profit corporations shouldn't be allowed to come in and make money off the backs of Americans that way.
Well, what happens if they do? What's the worst case scenario in your mind of a privatized delivery service?
Again, speaking purely for myself, the worst case scenario is that we have the prices skyrocket, as we've seen happen in other countries when privatization is attempted. I also think that no one is going to want to necessarily deliver every piece every day, 6 days a week, to the bottom of the Grand Canyon or to middle of nowhere rural America. We do that. The Postal Service does that and fulfills that obligation. So I see businesses clamoring to make the profit on city delivery and big metropolitan area, and I see the rest of the country suffering. I see prices skyrocketing. I see people having to pay for delivery instead of right now. We don't pay anything for delivery. It's paid by the people that are shipping it to us. That seems like a pretty significant thing.
Last question. I keep seeing social media reports of mailboxes disappearing or being moved. Any reason to think that's still happening?
We've been told that it's not. We've been told that that's been put on hold. So I haven't heard any reports of that continuing to happen since the Postmaster General said it was going to stop. But we are definitely keeping our eyes out and making sure the public stays informed of whatever we find.
Tell me what it's like to deliver the mail during a pandemic. Is it scarier than it used to be, or are people wearing masks? Do they treat you well?
I'm not a letter carrier. I can't speak to what our sisters and brothers in the letter carriers union experience, but I do know from our members that it's there have been challenges with people coming into the retail establishments, not necessarily wanting to wear masks, not thinking that they need to because it's a federal installation and not a local private business in Portland, but in Oregon rather. But for the most part, I'm hearing good things. But the idea is that none of our members, no essential worker, whether they be food service or anybody else, is going to work with the idea that they're going to come home sick. Nobody wants to risk getting COVID in this time, but the mail has to move. And I think that's one of the biggest sort of slaps in the face for our members right now is that they're coming to work every day to make sure that Oregonians' mail is moving, that it's getting processed, that it's getting to the carriers who can make that daily delivery to our customers. And at the same time, we're getting directives from on high that we need to slow down. We need to not be as effective or efficient as we are. It goes against the very DNA that's in the fabric of our being. We move the mail every piece every day, and that's what's under attack right now.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is awesome. I don't have any other questions. Let me just turn off the record button and make sure